We're going to look here at how this design student was able to create these acrylic cutouts and kind of stained glass window elements in effect that then fit within these cutouts so that when we have these little light boxes, the light not only shines through the cutout and projects the outline of the Pokemon character onto the wall, but also shines through these stained glass windows, or these sort of engraved glass rather than stained, engraved glass or engraved acrylic elements. And then where we see the engraving details have been applied, then we see the effect being projected onto the wall. So that's the process I'm going to be looking at in this particular video. Okay, so let's have a look. I've got two characters that I've got off the internet here. I should really know what this character is called in Pokemon, but I don't. I think it's called Magikarp or something like that. I don't know. I remember from my son's Pokemon days. And and I just want to clarify, I've got two here because there's sort of some interesting things happening here. It looks like this one's a bit sharper. It looks like this one's a little bit more blurred here. This one, if looking at the resolution of this, is 649 by 700 pixels vertically, whereas this one is only 500 by 555 vertically. So it looks like this one might be the better option. If I zoom in on these, then I can start to see there are some little anomalies going on. And if I look at the eye on this one, it seems as if the anomalies are even more pronounced in this particular case. So what I'm going to do first of all is just highlight a few things I can do to clean this up. And these techniques can also be used to remove watermarks on images as well. So let me see here. If I get the magic wand tool, I can click, for example, on any of the black part of this image, and you'll notice that it's almost picked it all up, but there seems to be like the fact that it's not picking up onto this little part of the top fin here, and it's to do with the tolerance level of the black that's being selected. The grayscale here isn't within the tolerance range of that bar. Also, I can see here some of the details that define up the anti-aliasing finishing of this black line also not being highlighted. So if I drag that to the right there, I can see I'm going to start to select a wider range of blacks, and I'm going to start to be able to select more of what I want in the image. Now, I might just extend that a little bit further there. Let's kind of control the width of the line that I'm picking up there. What's happening over here? Something a bit strange. Yes, it's just picking up two little lines there. If I pull it back here, maybe I just don't want those lines. I'm thinking there as well. Let's just pull it back there to 60, and that seems to just clean that up there. So just pixel peeping there to make sure it's as neat as possible. Now I can also see here that I've not got the eye because this is not a continuous black line running into the eye. So let's just go and change the selection options and go to all global black colors, and that's now picked everything up as I want. Okay, now I could at this point just go to image and crop to selection. But I'm still going to find out that there's certain kind of little anomalies in terms of the quality of the line here being generated. And I really want this to be a really nice, neat, consistent black line. So I'm going to go back there. And instead, what I'm going to do is get the brush tool. I'm going to make it a nice and large. Let's make it about 100 pixels. No, let's make it even bigger than that. 250, let's say. And then with now black color, what I'm going to do, if I zoom in on this, you can see at the moment I've got this kind of anti-aliasing effect. When I click, it just goes over that and kind of cleans up the image. So if I just go over the whole thing here, there you go. Just you don't really see any changes there. But now when I go to image and crop to selection, what I've now got is a really nicely defined outline there for this. And if I wanted to go in there and do a bit of pixel peeping and just clean up little errors like this, I'm welcome to do so. For example, I can get the eraser here. I'm going to turn off anti-aliasing on the eraser because if I leave it on there, whoops a daisy, that's not what I wanted. I've got a massive brush size, that's the problem. If I leave the anti-aliasing turned on, let's see what happens. Yes, you see how it turns it sort of like grayish. What I really want to do is completely erase it. Boom. Okay, so right, if you're not too sure what anti-aliasing is, check it out on the internet. It's something to do with smoothing the corners of graphics. And I could spend all day doing this, but I'm not. Now, the other thing I was going to do, just got that one there. The other thing I was going to do was look at this other image and see if that generates a kind of clearer design here. It will be exactly the same process. I don't think I'm going to bother. I think I'm happy with this one for the time being. So in fact, no, I will do it. I'm going to pause the video. I'll do it and we'll compare. That's a good solution. And actually, that was super fast. And if I just compare the two here, perhaps I just need to make sure that I am zooming them. Let's have a see. Is there a view here? Let's have a see. View to zoom to window. This one here, view, zoom to window. And now if I flick between the two, yeah, look, I can see here that Perhaps the second one that I did has got slightly more detail there. I'm liking the thickening of the lines. I'm definitely going to go with this one here. Okay, so let's Control A select all, Control C copy. Let's now go to Techsoft Design because I want to be laser cutting this, and let's paste this in. Okay, now then, let's have a see. I'm going to just bring this across to the side. Notice I've got grid lock turned on here. So when I drop that in here, it is just snapping into the grid, which is super important, as you'll see in a second. I'm not going to resize this yet, and you'll see why shortly. Let's now go back to paint.net. And what I'm wanting to do here, this is the right one, isn't it? Yes, it is I'm wanting to make it so that I am able to create the cutout here for this character that I can then cut out into the panel that makes the side part of my light here. So let's see how I'm going to do that. It's actually very straightforward. I'm going to get the magic wand tool here, and now I'm going to select, let me see, why is that getting everything there? Oh, because I've got oh no, I don't want global, I want continuous at this point. There we go. I'm going to click on this left hand panel here, and it's going to select this left hand top left corner of the design, and it stops here, of course, because that's the edge of the graphic. Remember, in my previous steps I used a feature which is crop to selection, and that got rid of all the margins that were originally associated with this image, which I always find very kind of unnecessary to have margins. Just have the image and no margin, I think. I need to go to the add selection here, add tool, because if I now select another part, you'll notice that it deselects the first. So let's go to the add. Let's also add this in, and I think that's everything. I think the rest of this is supposed to be Magikarp. I think that's his name, isn't it? And now what I want to do is I want to take everything that hasn't been selected and make it black so I can then make a mask from it. So very straightforward. I'm going to go to edit, invert my selection, and I'm going to go back to my brush tool. Remember, I've still got a big brush here in black, and I'm just going to black over the whole thing. Okay, now I have got a just like a black mask of this graphic. So let's just do Control A, select all, Control C copy. Let's go back to Techsoft, and now with the grid lock turned on, let's paste this in. Now it's important to have grid lock turned on here because you can see that now I can overlap the two and they are perfect. Okay, now I need to make this, so this is going to be a cutout. Let's go to bitmap. Let me see. I think you could contour this, but I prefer going to vectorize. I'm going to vectorize this. It's going to be monochrome, black and white. It's going to be custom settings with maximum resolution. I'm going to pause at this point. This might take a minute. And actually, it was mega fast. And let's see what we've got here. This before was a bitmap. If I go to properties of this bitmap, I can see I can do sort of bitmap property effects. If I come to properties of this, I'm going to get something saying group properties. Or if I go to start edit, I'm going to start to see all these nodes. So I can now see that this is a vector. Now, it's also, as I just noticed there, grouped together. It said group properties. I'm going to click on this. I'm going to go to edit and ungroup, or Control U. And that now means I can get rid of the background, which I don't want anymore. And now I'm going to zoom in as well. And what I'm looking for is any little anomalies that make this design up. And I get the impression here that there are no anomalies. Sometimes there's little kind of light gray little blocks around this. Now, the key point is that this should hopefully still snap onto my Magikarp, and it does absolutely perfectly. Now, let me see. What do I need to do now? I need to make this so that, let's have a see, I'm going to go to fill. I want to go no fill. Haha, right, there it is. But I've still got my outline. You can see it there. And now with my outline, I'm going to change the color of that outline to blue. Okay, so now what I've got is a blue cutting outline around my Magikarp graphic. Absolutely perfect. Let's group this together. Marvelous. Let's now scale this down. Now, when I'm scaling this, remember that Techsoft Design's a wee bit unique. If I left click, then it distorts the image. I do believe if you shift and left click, if you shift and left click, there you go, then it does maintain the proportions. Or you can right click, it's the same thing. Let's bring it across into my little panel here. This is the panel that represents the side of my light. And I'm just going to drop this, I think, with a 1 centimeter gap here. And then let's right click in this case. Let's bring it in. I've got a 1 centimeter margin on both sides, and I can see here that I'm slightly too low down. There's 5 millimeters here, and there's about 8 millimeters there. So let's come to step lock here. Let's just zoom in and let's just bring that up. Let's say 2 millimeters. How does Come on, that look. Yeah, I'm kind of liking the look of that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now. Oh, hang on. Let's make sure that this line here is going to be blue. And I'm also going to bring that to the front as well, so it's the last thing to be laser cut. I'm going to send that to the laser cutter now. I'm also going to send this graphic here to a piece of clear acrylic, and then I'm going to see how they fit together. So see you in a few minutes' time. Okay, so we're done with the laser cutting job. Before I show you what came out, I'm just going to explain to you what's happening here. Actually, on the right hand, this is a bit strange, isn't it? On the right hand side is what I just showed to you, and on the left hand side is my development of that on the laser cutter. So it should be left to right in my mind, but anyway. So what I've got here is I've taken this. When I went to the laser cutter, I mirrored this. I took just Magikarp and I mirrored it because I wanted so that I engrave on the back of the design, and then so when I turn it over, the engraving's on the back, and I'm looking through the clear acrylic. I always find that looks much better when you're doing engravings on clear acrylic. This design here is what I cut out of some MDF sheet, and this design, as you'll see, ended up being a little clear acrylic window, which I'm going to be gluing Magikarp onto. So you'll hopefully see what I'm talking about in a second. Now let's just bring up here my camera. I want to have that there. There we go. And these are the bits that we've got. So here's the piece of MDF which has just been cut out. What would be really, really handy here would be if I could bring that to the right and I could have that on the left. There we go. So that's going to be there. And then that's my Magikarp laser engraved. And then that is my clear acrylic window, and that's just the cutout from the piece of MDF. So I could have that as a souvenir. I'll just put it over there for the time being. Okay, so here we are. Here's Magikarp, and looking really nice. That's the engraving on the top. If I turn it over, I always think it looks better with the engraving on that side, and I can see that the reflection there of the fluorescent tubes in the room, that's the front again with the engraving. That's turned over. Now that's the side that wants to be shown. Always looks nicer. I want to put that in there. But the problem here is, of course, is that if I'm not careful, it's just going to push through, he says. And actually, it's proving to be quite difficult to push through there, but it will push through. So what I've done here is I've got a piece of clear acrylic, and I'm going to basically stick. Let's make sure this is clear here. It's sticking in the wood there. I'm going to stick Magikarp down onto this using some dichloromethane or tensile cement effectively, and then that's going to give me some areas here where I can use double-sided tape to stick it onto the panel here. Of course, I wouldn't normally use MDF here, but using something that's a bit more attractive than this, like a veneered wood. But just for this demo, I'm just using some plain MDF. Okay, right, so I'm going to go ahead now. I'm going to get the dichloromethane, put it on here, and then we're going to stick it along with the double-sided tape and see what we get. Fingers crossed. Here goes. Okay, so let's make my camera here a bit bigger. I've actually gone ahead and placed some sticky tape on there, or some double-sided tape, so I can see how that's all going to work out when I stick that on. Something like that. I'll have to be a little bit careful here because normally I'd have finger joints in here. So I feel as if that little bit of double-sided tape is perhaps sticking out a bit too far. It's getting in the way of the fin there. But for this example, I think it's going to be okay. But just be aware, if I had a finger joint in here, that would be a problem. I'd have to bring that double-sided tape back. So I've been a bit generous there. Okay. Let's get my dichloromethane here. I've got to be careful with this because it should be done in a ventilated area, and I should avoid breathing this in. But I'm going to get my dichloromethane. That's obviously on the brush. I'm going to hold these together gently and then just run that in. And this is just going to be letting the dichloromethane run between the two layers of acrylic using the capillary action of the chemical, of the solvent. Okay, and I think we are there. So I'm going to stop at that point. Okay then. So that now means that that should be stuck in place. Let's now just peel away the waxy paper, which always takes longer than you think. So I think I'm going to pause here. Okay, so there we are. I've removed the I've removed the waxy paper from these. I've got to make sure I get this the right way around, of course. That looks right about there. And of course, look what's happened now, okay? So this is a classic blunder. When I stuck it on, I didn't align up the acrylic to the wood. So technically what I need to do now basically is abrade or sand down the plastic here so that it would fit correctly on this square. So maybe I should have put the sticky pads onto the wood. Maybe that would be the thing to do. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to push this into place right now and let's just see what happens. It should just slide in there. He says it's just being a little bit difficult down the bottom there. And I think that's something to do with the size and shape of the fins I've got down the bottom there. That's got it. Pushing it in. So I've made a few little errors there in terms of the location of these pads and the gluing of the dichloromethane. But the key thing is that I've now got that stuck in position and that's looking a lot more solid. Now, the last thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to try to do a test with a light and see how this shines. So it's suddenly all gone very gloomy in here, and that's because I've turned off the lights, closed the blinds. Here's a demo light box I've got for just showing off what's going to happen here. So let's just go and put Magikarp in position here, and then let's just see how that is going to look. And that looks pretty awesome. There's a few little gaps on the outside here, which I obviously with the final box will be sealed off, but that looks really, really cool. Okay, there we are. We've done. We're finished. A few mistakes on the way, but hopefully you get the idea of what it's all about. And there we are, the final view. So great. See you next time.